Okay, welcome back, everyone. Since we interrupted the Q&A session for the coffee break, I think maybe instead of just addressing the grand theme that I had in mind, we can just continue the discussion. Maybe take the question that I believe Igor had, and then we take it from there. I have a few more issues to raise myself, and then we can go around to offer more insights. So, Igor, would you like to ask your question? Can we have a mic for him?
So I just had a brief question before we ended up the Q&A session, which was, have you ever said to yourself, only if these guys had the idea of these other people that came before, or if these guys actually had something more of a quality, I know that they could have made it, but you haven't told them in their face?
It's so from a debrief perspective, yes, we have said that when we do our investment committee sessions. We will have that opportunity to build on that with the incubator we will be putting in place, which will have founder matching with problems that either we have or they bring to the table to help them set up the startup a bit better and set the foundations for them. So we would hope that kind of thing happens naturally. So anyone we've said no to now and lands in that kind of category, we will have them in our Airtable. We don't have a funky CRM. We're keeping it like low code and hands-on. So we'll be able to get them out and leverage it. Founders are the most precious thing in the world.
Okay, one of the you wanted to add something? Go ahead.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought because I looked at you. I guess there is a little bit of too much focus on the idea, okay? And I think I would echo that founders are the most important. They are not really, but they are important in that usually they bring expertise about the domain. So the idea that they have come up with, they can actually implement it, and more importantly, find a way to bring it to the marketplace and sell it, which is not obvious, okay? So just having a good idea by itself is great, right? But unfortunately, it's just not enough. And in fact, very often technical founders or technical people have the impression that the technology is like 90% of the company, okay? Which is wrong, unfortunately. I wish it was true because, I'm coming from the technology space myself, but the reality is that there are so many different pieces that have to be in place in a company to have a product that sells. The technology is just one part of it, okay? So the idea is important, but I think the experience in the market, in building a product is much more important. And I have been in situations where the founders were ousted from the company they created because they were incompetent managers, okay? So they had the great idea, fantastic, but they were incapable of doing certain things. In one instance, managing other people. In another, figuring out go-to-market and then sort of creating a solid marketing campaign, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, you need to grow in several ways as a founder, and you need to be able to do that. And one of the difficult tasks, I guess, we face in terms of making investment decisions is we have to look at people that we don't know. We met, maybe, a few times, and we have to determine if these people have the intellectual capacity and the emotional capability to grow, okay? Because that's what you expect, okay? So it starts from an idea, but you need all that to mature and become a successful company.
So I had a question myself, again, continuing from the last session for the representatives of the investment community here, which relates to this technology readiness level, which also which the European Commission, has glorified. So TRL, this TRL level and rules, right? And even grants are being categorized as with regard to the level of TRL, etc. And my question is, how close is that to representing maturity of a company to get out in the market? I mean, having a TRL of 1 or a TRL of 8, is that really making a difference when you talk to an investor, and what's best to have, or what is missing from that TRL? And perhaps maybe we should expand that definition and have a different metric.
I can give it a shot. I mean, it's one indicator. It's one indicator that we use, TRL, MRL, on the marketing readiness, technical readiness levels, for us to get initial feedback of what the team thinks they are, and maybe what then, after having some interactions with us, what our perspective is, and we break out that into I think with Dimitri, a 21-point assessment breakdown to give them red, green, yellow scores on our version of it. So we use it as an initial driver to assess mutually the situation, and here are the red things with explicit work that needs to be done to really be a 4 or a 7 or an 8. That's how we use it as a tool.
Yeah, I guess we don't use at Big Pie. We don't use sort of a formal process, but the reality is that the higher the TRL, the more you minimize investment risk. So, and the more you are capable of utilizing capital to create a product and grow as a business. So at TRL 1, even if you get $5 million, you won't be able to create a product because you just don't even know how the product will work yet, right? So in these cases, I think it's important to understand where you are, because if you want to go commercial, it might be better, let's say, to license your technology to a bigger company, to a big company, let's say, that might be able to use the technology in the sense that they can take it from TRL 3 to 5, 6, whatever, to make it as a product, okay? So for us, we would expect somebody to basically have eliminated the research risk. So there shouldn't be technology risk when you seek investment. In other words, you should be ready to go commercial. I mean, for the most part, obviously there are always, things left and right that you need to figure out. But the expectation is that when you approach at least us as Big Pie, you have solved all the technology issues. Okay, so the TRL will be higher, and the higher it is, the faster you can go, which means you can get more capital, you can go to market faster, etc.
I guess early stage funding goes a bit different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because you guys give. Yes. Okay. So I was saying early stage funding must be different because you get involved in a much earlier stage. So people may just have an idea and a very early prototype, right, with some very basic.
Yeah, it's between founding readiness, founder readiness, product market fit readiness, and commercialization business readiness. At that early stage, it's not easy to nail everything, and so we need to have the next picture of a scorecard that says, okay, this is what you need to work on to get an investment from us. And it's a tool we use just to help us become, because we're engineers, I guess, and we like the numbers, and it gives us, and in the initial, so we put out of those 300-400 companies that I mentioned, we put about 30 of them through this assessment. So we have data points that even a few weeks of working with the teams, they can get better in the red areas. And if they do, that's an indication like it's a workable team.
So back to the theme of the original theme of the panel, since this is for the benefit of our students. The question is in terms of personal development, right? So all those folks will be graduates, PhD graduates in a year from now or so. So they'll all be called doctors. Okay. And the question is, what do you guys perceive, they should invest in terms of personal development if they have in mind, to pursue starting something of their own, starting next year. So maybe we can start with you, George.
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned some stuff my presentation, but I think that what I would like to see is passion for what they are doing. So expertise, technical expertise is very important. Be open-minded, and learning from other disciplines is very important. There are various skills that are important and key, but if the founder lacks the passion to actually do a startup or start something new, then you can go further. So I would say this is a key thing. So it's about hard skills, it's about soft skills, but most of all is passion.
Um, the one like material thing that I feel is someone being extremely detail oriented about the space that they're in. Like they need to be the expert. They need to be the go-to person. They need to be pointed out as the person, individual that will solve the problem and can solve the problem. So like gaining that knowledge and expertise is critical. And then in terms of like your journey, you need to be very resourceful. You need to find smart ways, sometimes outside of the norm, to get things done. So I feel founders that have that way of navigating the system to, meet their objectives are much better prepared for success. That's something that you really don't. It comes through experience. No one teaches it, but sometimes good founders working together, push each other to develop that muscle.
I would say what really matters is in the literature you may find different types of traits you need to tolerate. Failure, you need to tolerate risk, you need to display execution intelligence. Passion is the number one as well trait. But I would urge you to think why you are in this career path, what matters to you, because it is very important to be self-motivated and to remain engaged and inspired. You really need to know why, what it means to you. And if things do not go as anticipated, would you still remain in this sort of career path, and why? So this is some food for thought for you to consider, because it doesn't really matter if your initial idea is going to be implemented as it was originally conceived. What it matters is the journey, and it is going to change a lot and a lot. Your ability to learn and adjust and enjoy the ride is equally important that achieving a quantifiable sort of success, because success is the outcome. What matters is to find a real meaning in what you do, and then you will be resourceful. You are going to find your way along, okay, all this path. But it is important to know the why, what it means to you, why you are doing what you are doing. I think this is extremely important.
Well, I fully agree with George, Sterios, and Katerina already. And I think that some part of it I hinted in my presentation as well. The main thing is, to my opinion, persistence. I mean, be ready to fail, and you will face little failures every now and then. You will face a lot of no's, as we have seen already in the previous presentations. Don't consider them as the end of the world. I mean, be persistent, be passionate about what you're doing, be ready after this little failure, whatever failure that is, to rise up again and continue your work. I mean, learn from the failure and continue. Don't lose that.
could I add something? And you know, the thing is, learning does not happen instantly. When you have failed and you have invested so much time and effort and money, it feels like it is the end of the world. And there is a lot of grief because you have lost so much. Nevertheless, you need to take one step back. George has been through this many times, so it's doable. So since George has done it, why don't you? You know, I mean, yeah.
If George can do it.
Yeah, I mean, come on, everybody. You know, it's really important. If somebody is able to do it, I think everybody can do it. I mean, you know, you should try, right? Because you know, things become a bit tricky when.
I believe you can thank Katerina offline. Alex?
No, I agree with her. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
I mean, it's a live example of what it is feasible. You know, this is what I mean. It's feasible. So go for that. Even you think it's the end of the world.
Let me say something anecdotally here. So, I mean, I think you probably you alluded to it earlier. Many of those well-known billionaire founders, etc., right? Who said it? That we all know who they are. You said it. Who never graduated from school, right? Okay, you said it, right? So, and they'll tell you, you know, you already failed if you manage to get your degree, right? And I guess George, what he really meant is, you know, I want to say this publicly because he's extremely modest himself. Okay, this guy has 3 degrees from MIT. Okay, I know nobody else who has 3 degrees from MIT, George here. And the fact that this didn't do him enough damage so that he would never try anything for himself means that
Exactly.
he really, you know, he really excels in that. So, Alex, you wanted to?
Yeah, look, I like what Katerina said. I think it's first of all, you have to be true to yourself and understand if this entrepreneurship is something what you want to do. And it's true, it's not a one-off. It could be one-off because you could do it and decide it's not for you, which is perfectly fine. But in general, it's a lifestyle, it's a way of working. And so, and I know several people have actually been through several startups before they actually were successful, and even more that they were never successful. They're just going from one startup to another. So you better like that style of working because, you know, financial success, let's say, may never come, at least in the way that you think. So I think that's very important. Now, having said that, I remember when I was a PhD student back in the from 1990 to 95. Maybe remind you, the first browser was invented in 94. So at the time, we didn't have information available to us so easily. We had to go to the library and get books that talked about entrepreneurship, okay, to learn about stock options, you know, about copyright, about patents. All that was hard work that you had to go to the library. So today, there's no excuse. So you have to, if you want to be in entrepreneurship, get expected to know all the basics, you know, the Y Combinator, let's say, you know, information, okay? So that has to be, you certainly have to know that. Then you, of course, have to know your technology and you have to understand the market you're operating with. In other words, where you're going to sell the product. Okay, if that all is true, and again, doing a PhD sometimes, you know, detaches you from the market realities, right? Think for yourself, if you know the commercial products in your space, how they are sold, how much they cost, do you care, right? If you don't care, maybe that's a sign, right? So if you are not aware at all, right, about the commercial world where you're doing your research, maybe that's a sign, okay? And the other thing is, what I would say is find other like-minded individuals, because the best way to move forward is to have, you know, co-founders being part of a team that helps, you know, each other to move forward, okay? And so by doing all these things, when the right time comes and the right idea comes, you will be prepared. You will be ready to make the next step and sort of something that was percolating to ignite it and sort of make it a venture start moving forward.
Yeah, George, go ahead.
If I can add something, is that the way I see how I went through my PhD is that PhD students have got a small advantage in comparison to other students, because when I started my PhD, I didn't know what the final thesis would be. So this is, also when you start a startup, you don't know where you will get. You have your ups, your downs. You read, you do your experiments. Many of the experiments don't produce good results. You have to go back, think again. It's not just a book that you read and you do an exercise. So I feel that doctoral students have got the raw material, the raw source they need to go on for a startup. It's up to you to use them towards that aim.
Another thing that I think you all alluded to, but maybe we didn't. Yeah, and another thing you all mentioned, but maybe not explicitly, is the concept of comfort zone. Okay, so I mean that is very prominent, especially in the startup world. You have to be able to get out of it, and I believe this crowd of PhD students has kind of a head start because they are funded by a program that has as a requirement that you move from your country into another country in order to be able to be eligible to participate in this kind of program. So they all had to move, leave behind families, friends, etc. And more than that, throughout the program, they had to visit different places. So they had to do the so-called secondments, that's the EU jargon, means research visits in other institutions, often in other countries as well. So that means that they have been already exposed to getting out of their comfort zone more than once, because going for a research visit is not always as straightforward as it seems. You may have to leave back your apartment or keep paying rent for your apartment behind and then pay rent again where you're going, find a place, find again friends, all those things. So they are kind of trained in that, and I think this is a smart thing about this program because it helps them get out of the comfort zone. The unfortunate situation is that COVID dominated a big part of that, and so that was another challenge because often it didn't go at all as planned. Some had to stay to go back to their home countries, or some got stuck and could not get back to their home countries. So all of that, what I'm trying to say is, it's probably for the better that you've had these experiences, because this equips you for this kind of ups and downs that everybody has been talking about today. So it's all good. Yes, Igor. You need a mic, otherwise you're not.
Yeah, in this process, we also kind of spend our budget of getting out of our comfort zone. Especially, let's say you've studied at one, second, third place, fourth place, and then you kind of, if you have to drag out that comfort zone, it also kind of, you may be inclined to kind of settle, which probably also happens. It's just, I wanted to say that it also might happen to just be person per person. It's the drive that changes the person.
Any other questions from our students, since you have this crowd here?
Maybe I can add some color to this, because the comfort zone is a tunable parameter in a venture. And that's where the team comes in. In other words, not everybody has to do fundraising, right? So if you're not comfortable going out and speaking to people, presenting or making cold calls, etc., you can have a co-founder who is willing to do all that, right? So you can be sort of like a very geeky, introvert sort of engineer, right, who can be a technical co-founder and say to your team, look, guys, I don't want to be running around and making presentations. That's all you, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, so also you don't necessarily need to be, let's say, in the founding team, be in the heat of the kitchen. You could be employee number 1, number 2, number 3, which means, okay, you might have less of an equity stake, but on the other hand, you will join maybe later when there are salaries to go around, etc. So again, you can tune the level of your participation to your comfort zone, and after you gain some more experience, after finishing your PhD, you can decide, if you want to go up, down, or go somewhere else. I mean, go to a big company and work. Okay, so there are many ways to adapt.
And group work, by the way, is also very helpful in this respect, because, for example, our students, we had a small competition before this summer school, and so there were 5 different teams of students from the program that had to produce a little video about what they've been doing as group work. And I guess all those choices had to be made, right? Who will gather the data, who will prepare the presentation, who will speak, right? All those things are important. And I'm not sure that you always got it right, by the way. Okay, so the winning team probably got it better than others. Probably other teams with some reshuffling might have done better as well. Another remark related to this research visits, etc., and getting out of the comfort zone is internships. Internships I think, are an incredible tool. It's being recognized more and more. Greek academia is recognizing it slowly, okay, to some extent, and I believe they're incredibly valuable because you get completely not out of your comfort zone, out of your way of doing things. You're suddenly in a real environment, and you see things that nobody teaches you, or at least the time we were there, nobody would teach you at school. And I can say, speaking from personal experience, I did 2 internships during my undergrad. I was lucky enough back then. One was in the Greek Public Electricity Corporation, and the following year was in the French Electricity Corporation. Okay, and those were incredibly instrumental in my career. I decided I do not want to work as an engineer in a big company.
I had
ever.
the same exact experience. I did 2 summers at Bell Labs in 93, 94. 12 weeks, summertime, right? But, there was massive organization, remember, in Mare Hill. And my conclusion was exactly that. I don't want to work in a place like that, so massive. And
Yeah, but I guess that this experience also gave you great confidence because you realized how much you can achieve. So you don't have to be afraid. You see in practice what we're capable of, and this is extremely important.
And it also sends you to search elsewhere for what to do, let's say professionally, right? Because this is not going to work, right? So you scratch
Very
it,
important.
and you look somewhere else.
Is it on? Yeah. So most often, I think you'll find what you don't want to do, right? So in my case, I went for a PhD.
It's equally important. It's very important.
I went for a PhD because I knew that I didn't want to do the rest. So who knows? Maybe this is going to end up better. Okay. We also have some faculty members, and I think our faculty members are as challenged in doing something like, or even more challenged because the comfort zone level is probably much higher. We've been used to doing the same thing for 20 years, and getting out of that kind of mode of operation is very hard. I know in Greece it's we have data that shows that it's very unlikely for faculty members to pursue something. That's due to several reasons, but also the personal, let's say, willingness is low. So do we have any words of wisdom for our faculty community in this program? Or to put it differently, what kind of role one should pursue perhaps at this stage in an academic career?
I can give you some data points because as Big Pie, Big Pie was one of the equity funds which were really, geared towards doing technology transfer with universities. And we worked a lot. I mean, we went to all the, different polytechnic schools. We spoke with people, etc. In the end, we saw that there wasn't much interest, let's say, from faculty so first of all, to quit the academic profession and start a company, definitely not. But we also saw that the readiness level of the research was not very high. And in fact, we invested in a company called Athroa Innovations, which Konstantinos knows very well. And the objective was, given that the technology was not ready to go into a company, maybe it would be ready enough to be licensed to companies that might be interested to use it. So Athroa was set up to bridge that gap because that's something that Big Pie could not do. We invest in companies. We don't do licensing agreements. So that worked for a couple of years. I mean, that project ran for a couple of years, and the results are mixed. Again, from the university environment, I wouldn't say that the results are fantastic. Okay, so we have an issue here in terms of how ready is the academic community to produce results that can be either licensed or become products. I think I mentioned earlier we have 2 investments on Big Pie, where the university, actually the research center, is a direct equity holder. That's a low number if you think about it. And I don't know what are the nationwide numbers, but they're fairly low. But I think the best strategy in my mind, and I've seen it also at Columbia University, where I was for several years, the best model is to, if you have some member of your research team that has aspirations of becoming an entrepreneur, then you can encourage them and they can lead the way, right? They can, after they finish whatever it is that they're doing, they can lead the way. And the faculty member, if they don't want to quit their job, and most don't, that you can become, chief scientist or a scientific advisor, etc. So you can be associated with a venture on a consulting basis and help the technology grow, okay? And if you want to do that, also it's important to make sure that the research you do is more or less in some sort of commercially relevant space, okay? So in other words, sometimes it happens by accident, but more often than not, it's a result of intent, not accident. So there are ways. I mean, in the Greek system, in the Greek sort of legal system, it was harder in the past for professors to do this sort of thing. It was not encouraged, maybe possibly even not allowed. But over the past 4 or 5 years, this has changed. So I think it's much easier now, from a legal standpoint, to spend the time and do it.
The conversation went towards like faculty, but I feel that if you're going to be spending your time as a student in a university, I think it's important to, and a must-have, to go out there and work. And so if your schooling offers you 4 months in the summer, that's where you should go. So in my view, it's imperative. It's a cultural thing in North America for engineering schools to push their students in that direction and leveraging their resourcefulness. If a school in whatever country doesn't have it, who cares? Go find the job. Just look at the Google posts and Facebook posts and Apple and companies. They all have an ask for people to come in and help them. And I guarantee you, while you learn, that could be your future employer.
Can I say something to that? Europe is a bit different because they don't keep you unpaid during the summer months. They keep paying you, and they expect you to finish your PhD in 3 years, three consecutive years.
More non-PhD, like, so you're in undergrad, like, drive your summers and any free non-course time in that direction.
Sure. Any final questions from our students? Marco?
Yeah, as a change. George Kanda did this during his presentation already, but I just wanted to ask you if you have any other examples of things you wish you had done differently, or main lessons you've learned from your past.
You're referring to me? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you Kanda did it in your presentation, but it was a question for everyone, really.
Well, obviously, it was the one that mentioned the most failures here, I guess. Well, to tell you the truth, I would have assessed risks more prudently now. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't follow the same trajectory, the same path. I still would have faced the same risks, but most probably I would have mitigated the risk in a better way out of the lessons learned, I guess, learned by me so far. Okay, I think that would be it. I wouldn't avoid to make maybe the same mistakes again. Who knows? There is no one that can tell you that, if I would have known that, I would have done things better. Nobody can tell you that because nobody can prove it.
Yes, Eloise. Can we get the mic to Eloise?
So thank you all for all the lessons you've teach us taught us today. I have a question. It might sound a little bit stupid, but when I was in college, me and my friends, we used to have a lot of great ideas. You know, we would just do brainstorming sessions and we would have some great ideas, and like few months after, someone would come up with something that is exactly what we just said. And so my question is like, what kind of advice would you give for people that have these lots of these great ideas but don't manage to get started? um, do you get what I mean? Someone wants to say something. Thank you.
Look, again, ideas is one thing, and think of Twitter. What kind of a product is that, right? I mean, you come and you pitch. Okay, I will do an application where you write short messages and you post them, and people will like them and share them. And, yeah, okay, whatever, right? So now it's like, I don't know, the fourth or fifth bigger social media platform. So, again, ideas are important, but execution is important. Luck is also important in the sense that, in fact, oftentimes when you think of an idea, I guarantee you at the same time there are other people around the planet having similar thoughts, or and so the question is really who's going to spend the energy to take the idea and make it a reality, okay, and have the resources to make it happen, and the knowledge and the intelligence and the capability and the luck to be, at the right time, at the right place, when it matters, right? Don't think that because Twitter was successful, it was just brilliance, right? It's also because they did the right application at the right time. And it's like if you put 5 monkeys in a room and there is a button, one of them is bound to hit the button. Is this a smart monkey? I don't know. Maybe it was a lucky one, right? So that's why you have to take things with a grain of salt. And it's also very important, by the way, when you have an idea, to also look in the graveyard of companies, meaning companies who tried that same idea but failed for one reason or another. And they never became known just because, they never made the news, but maybe, they tried to do something, but it's inherently, very hard to do or very expensive to do, okay? So I think the idea is great, is the beginning, right? And the deeper it is, the better, the more foundation you have to grow. If it's patentable, that's even better, right? Because then it's a solid invention. You can really sink your teeth and start building around it, right? So the deeper it is, the better. But it's just, it's just a seed. I mean, unless you have the whole garden, the machinery, and everything, it will lead nowhere.
I would actually, I don't know if it's a team or a group of 5, 6 people that sit in a whiteboard or a basement over pizza and beers, but I would pick one person and sign a contract between the two of you and say, let's work on this idea for the next 6 months. And you pick this person because you just love working with them. Make a commitment to say, we're going to do this, every second day after work for 3 hours, and one weekend, or maybe go a retreat and try something in a cottage or something, just to create the right environment and stuff. I'm just trying to give you some ideas on how to take that fun pizza beer discussion into like more material experiences.
Actually, there is research behind that. You need to remain committed on what you are doing, and this is a form of commitment. You need to really immerse into action and see what is happening. And having these reminders about what you have to do and engaging other people is extremely important. If you don't try, you will never know. You have to try. And then you have to do your research and see why similar ideas have failed, or why similar ideas have succeeded, and why you're different, or why you think you're going to be better. And start immersing into action and experimenting and see where this will lead you. But you have to do something. If you don't do, and you just thinking about ideas but never acting on the ideas, you will never know. Translating a business idea into a viable, financially sustainable company is a huge trajectory. And this is not something that you can figure out up front. You have to start doing it and see how it evolves. And you evolve through that as well. So You just have to do it. Just do it.
Can I just add something before Constantino says? So, what person do you think I should look out for first? Like the first person I should seek to try to make my idea work? Because I know that some people would start to looking for incubators, or I don't know. Who should I talk to if I have an idea and I want to make it a company?
I mean, if you have peers in your school or you're in close friend network, I would start there, especially in kind of university collaborating with individuals. I think that would be good, a good first start. I wouldn't experiment with kind of building brand new relationships necessarily early on with cold calls on LinkedIn or whatever. I would look one or two pivots away from where you are. And at the end of the day, I think it's also to look at people that might have complementary skill sets with you. Maybe I don't know your background, but maybe you're more of a scientific business type thinker, and you're scared to put your fingers on a computer to write some code. So maybe you look to find like a geeky engineer that you can like sit together and do some things. Hey, I want to try this, or if I prototype that. I think that's where you need to start, like being a little resourceful on what your network is. And coming back to like building out relationships with people, I think that's what is one of the critical parts of success, is going out there and being open to building relationships, because you never know which one will land you that opportunity. So go out there, actively build relationships, and things will happen.
May I add something here? It depends on what are you looking for. I mean, are you looking for a business partner, a co-founder? Then look around, to your peers, friends, colleagues, that they do have complementary skills, as Stereo said. Are you looking for advice on how to grow and develop your business? Then start by browsing websites, seeing what and how to start your business, how to build your business, and then go to an incubator to get professional mentoring, which is a different thing than building a founding team. And be very careful on who you will put as a partner, already having failed once at least, just because of the founding team. Believe it or not, it's of a great importance for you to get along with the rest of the founding team, having complementary skills and being passionate all the way, both of you or all of you, towards the same goal.
Okay, I want to play devil's advocate for a second, because this is a crowd of researchers, and we tend to forget with all this entrepreneurship talk. Sometimes you get depressed. Okay, so I mean, there is another thing called curiosity-based driven research. Okay, it's a great place to be. Those who have it sometimes remain happy all their lives because they keep pursuing, what their curiosity demands, and this makes them happy, and maybe they never make money, etc. So it's absolutely fine to be doing that. Actually, if you find it and keep doing it, this is great for you. Translating it into monetary value for yourselves is the challenge. And in that, I want to also emphasize the whole timing issue that you mentioned, and luck. And I have seen several times in my career these situations where you have a completely misaligned technology with the market needs, or the technology is there, but nobody has generated yet the killer app or the killer device. And once this happens, it gives a whole new meaning to everyone, even if they're not the ones who directly make the money, but they feel, valued by doing this. So I can, anecdotally, I want to mention a few examples, which sometimes I mention in the class as well, in the classroom. A very funny one is SMS, right? You mentioned Twitter, which is a messaging based, let's say, social media platform. Before that, there was SMS, what the Americans never wanted to call like that because it was a European acronym. Text. They were saying you guys were saying texting, right? You were not SMS. In the rest of the world, we're doing SMS, short messaging system. And SMS was a total accident. Okay, it was a data communication mode that had been standardized in the GSM protocol for who knows what purpose. I mean, for exchange of control messages, for diagnostic data, whatever. And then suddenly, when people started when GSM became the default phone protocol, okay, operators started realizing that, you can make this part of the service. People started using it. I remember the first time I saw somebody tapping like crazy on their phone, I thought this guy was nuts, but it was just sending a message at very high speed. And you could hear the noise back then. And so SMS was a huge commercial success for operators. Okay, why? Because it was a total win-win situation that was completely unexpected, right? SMSs were charged at a very low rate, right? So, I mean, one SMS was costing maybe 8 cents, right? Or something like that. The price you paid for it, which was less than what you would pay for talking on the phone for 1 minute, right? So rather than calling on the phone and saying, okay, honey, I'm coming back home, you just send a message. One thing costs you maybe $0.50, the other one costs you 8 cents. So you profit from that, okay? The way it was back then. The operator, if you look at the payload data of that message, which was like 156 characters or something, okay, it's ridiculously low. It's much less than voice of 1 minute. They were selling it overpriced by at least one order of magnitude, if not two. This data was nothing, okay? So basically, everybody wins. The customer wins a factor of 10, the operator 2 factors of 10, right? So somebody developed it. Some nerds or whatever knew how to add this a control channel basically in the protocol, and then it became a big success for some operators. Somebody made money, okay? Then the other example that I know from very closely was around the time 3G was coming up. Okay, I was in that company that you disliked working, right? It was Bell Labs, and I was there as a permanent researcher, though not engineer. Okay, and technology was ahead of its time, clearly. Okay, I mean, this whole community back then that was developing 3G 20 years ago was getting ready to give megabits per second, okay, on your phone, which was science fiction, by the way. People knew about kilobits, I mean, megabits. And, there were big projects about that and how we're going to do this and that. And nobody knew what the hell this will be useful for. Nobody knew. There were entire surveys, right? I mean, what are we going? Nobody knew. And some people were trying, who pretended to be application oriented. People say, "Yeah, you'll be driving." I said, "What are you? You're going to be driving and doing megabits to do what? You'll get killed. I mean, what are you going to do? Have a laptop? I mean, open up your laptop." There was no. So, and then the technology still got developed, right? 3GPP happened, and 3G happened, and all those things. And what was that really propelled it? It was the damn smartphone. So that was Steve Jobs, right? He came up with the concept, this device. Once this was there, it solved the problem. It was a killer device. Okay, and all apps, of course, came on top. Then social media came, right? That's when 4G happened. So then you wanted even more, right? Yes. But Blackberries didn't need the megabits, right? Or the tens of. Yeah. And then Wi-Fi happened, and people got addicted to the tens of megabits, right? And then they wanted the same on their device. And then social media started putting a lot of content, and then you wanted that content to on your personal device. So then, of course, this gave a huge push to that entire community, which keeps working without really asking what the. So we're talking about 6G. I mean, if you were here yesterday, the whole program was a lot about 6G, right? And there's all sorts of crazy ideas and futuristic concepts, etc. If you ask all these people what is gonna be useful for? We don't really know, right? But we keep working on it. So there's some value and pleasure into that as well. I don't want to discourage it just because we may all not be entrepreneur oriented.
In fact, to add to that, look at cryptography. The math related to cryptography is as obscure as it gets, right? Most people in engineering don't even do that kind of math as undergraduates, okay? And look at what a big business has been created out of that. There are very few people that truly understand the math underpinnings of all that. And this is abstract math, okay? So 10 years ago, nobody would sort of believe that this can become a huge business. So and it did. So you never know, okay? So coming from an academic point of view, wholeheartedly support the notion of devoting oneself to as you said, curiosity-driven research.
And in all honesty, if there is no bulk of people that pursue all these things, there wouldn't be a technology base which we could use to tap on and then create this kind of value. But since you mentioned the abstract math and etc., Greece has a lot to learn from that, because still, even today in Greece, when a high school student tells you they want to study math, to go to college into a math department, become mathematicians, they really don't know what opportunities this could open. They think if you get this degree, what will you become? A high school teacher, and perhaps a high school tutor on top. Okay, and that's where it ends, right? Nobody thinks that you could be developing cryptographic techniques or protocols or algorithms. Eloise, you had the question.
No, it's just that he was not using the microphone and we could not hear very well from the... But it's okay.
All right. I think, is there any other question? If not, I think we're nearing the end of the session and the day and the workshop. I want to thank again wholeheartedly all of you for coming here today. I think you make a great team. I'll try to find opportunities to bring you back again. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it.
We enjoyed a lot as well.
Okay, and judging from the response, yes, people really liked it and benefit from it. I hope you guys enjoyed the summer school. We have a closed session tomorrow just for the participants of the project, but other than that, we can close the summer school, and thank you all very much for your participation.